All right, thanks for joining us. If you have already, we're going to give another minute or so before we get into today's presentation. If we recall from the email, today is an Ask Me Anything, meaning if you come up with any questions about nutrition, type them up in that chat box as soon as you can, and I'll be going over that. Before we get into the questions, just so that we do have some content for those of us watching this later, I will be going through a brief overview of what we've done in the past 5 weeks, or 6 weeks rather, and get a little bit more insight into the things that we talked about, circle back over them, and then I do have a couple of common questions that I've received as a trainer or other common questions that I've found online that people typically ask their trainer about nutrition. So we'll be going over a couple sample questions as well. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump on in. As we get started, please remember the same thing for every single call or every single video we have here, that all of the information discussed is not medical advice, and we'll go through our medical disclaimer. All right. This discussion is for educational purposes only and should not be considered as medical advice. Consult with a qualified healthcare professional for personalized guidance regarding any nutrition or fitness recommendations. I do not bear any responsibility for outcomes resulting from the implementation of the information provided. Alrighty, guys, let's go ahead and dive on in. Thanks again for joining us, and if you're watching this later, I hope you enjoy the information. So very briefly, we're going to go over our summary of the previous sessions. Quick introduction to nutrition recap. The definition of nutrition is the process of providing or obtaining the food necessary for health and growth. The importance of nutrition is related to your overall health, well-being, mental, and physical health. We discussed macronutrients. We went over carbohydrates, which we use for energy, proteins, which we use to build muscle and repair tissue, and fats, which we use to fuel the body, specifically the brain, and remain balanced in our diet. There's a function of each of these macronutrients that is essential for a healthy lifestyle. And there are multiple sources of each of these macronutrients in our diet. We can get the carbohydrates from fruits, some vegetables or tubers and roots, whole grains, and other plant foods that do not contain a high variety of protein. We can get our proteins from animal products such as meat, fish, dairy, eggs, as well as a couple plant proteins such as lentils or different beans. And we get our fats from avocados, oils, nuts, and seeds. We briefly went over micronutrients, which are our vitamins and minerals. There are key functions of each of these individual items in different foods or supplements that we may take. And there are certain foods called superfoods that are rich in these micronutrients to help us create our balanced diet. We went over the definition of calories and how we use these to maintain energy balance, and we receive calories from the food that we eat. Calories in versus calories out in terms of weight loss or body composition change. If we eat more food than we burn, we will gain weight. If we're actively strength training while doing that, we will gain muscle. If we are not, we will gain fat. If we eat less than we burn, we will lose weight. If we are strength training while we do that, we will lose mostly fat while retaining mostly muscle. If we do not strength train while we eat less food, we will likely lose some muscle as well. We went over reading nutrition labels. It's important to understand the ingredients and making your food choices more informed. If we don't understand an ingredient or it sounds like a science experiment, it likely is a processed food, and maybe we should think twice before putting it in our body. Ideally, we want to find foods that are single ingredient foods like an apple or celery or a carrot or something that is only what it is and doesn't have anything added to it or processed to make it whole. We went over the key components of a nutrition label, understanding that serving size is not always what it seems, that calories are an important part to understand in terms of how many calories are in each serving size. We went over the percent daily value and how that is for a general person based on a 2,000 calorie diet, which is not necessarily true for everyone. We went over a couple tips for interpreting the nutrition labels accurately, making sure we understand that there are hundreds of hidden words for sugar. And we went a little bit more into intermittent fasting, healthy eating patterns, and making sure that we try things out for ourselves, understanding that we can eat within the eating window and not eat within the fasted window to increase our body's ability to burn calories for energy and body fat for energy. We went over the importance of the balance and variety of our food and moderation of the unhealthy foods, but how we can maintain them as a part of our diet in order to mitigate being too stressed and still enjoy our lives. And then lastly, we went over some myths and misconceptions. We wanted to make sure that when we look into deciding on foods to eat or try, we're not giving into marketing schemes or fancy wording that might make something sound healthier than it is, but actual grounded evidence of what food is and doing our own research. And lastly, we went over critical thinking and skepticism towards nutritional claims, not believing everything we read on a label, and making sure that we do our homework before trying a new food. Now, guys, that was a brief overview of what we discussed in the past couple of weeks. I'm next going to go over what we should eat before, I was just reading the first question. I'm going to go over some common questions found online for nutrition-based questions to a trainer. So as I do this, please type up any questions you may have in the chat box. Even if I end up covering it here, that's fine. Just type them up if you can to give me some more stuff. If not, I do have a list to go off of here. So number one, what should I eat before and after a workout for optimal energy and recovery? So before a workout, for optimal energy, we would want to be eating a simple carbohydrate. So that's going to be something that our body can readily break down within the next 30 minutes to 2 to 3 hours. And that allows us to use that energy from that simple carbohydrate for fuel for the workout. So an example of this simple carbohydrate would be any kind of fruit. So if I had an apple before exercise, that's a perfect example of a good quality pre-workout to give me energy to get through the workout, but not eat too many calories where I will have excess even after I've burned off what I did. And then for recovery, we want to be eating typically just a balanced meal. I want to go over quickly the myth of the metabolic window in terms of needing to get a protein shake in 30 minutes after a workout. That is essentially a marketing scheme. It's not necessarily true. If you eat protein 2 hours after your workout, you will still utilize all of it. And eating it 30 minutes after the workout does not mean it gets better utilized than eating it later. It was put into place just to encourage you to stop at the gas station and spend $5 on a protein smoothie so that they can make a little bit extra money or buy it at the gym. But in reality, for optimal recovery, we just want to have a balanced meal, high in protein. Definitely want to emphasize protein if we're strength training to utilize that broken down muscle and give it some fuel with the protein to rebuild stronger. But that would be the way we do that. And in terms of protein, what should we be eating? Ideally, whole foods. So if we are a omnivorous diet follower, then we could eat, chicken, fish, meat, or any of the animal foods there. If we are a vegetarian, eggs or dairy-based protein would be great. If we're a vegan, or if we are somewhere in between, then a protein shake is probably our best option. If we're not vegan, I would recommend a whey protein shake, as that's going to be the most complete, least processed, and cleanest form of protein shakes. And if we are vegan, there are plenty of options to look into there as well. Next question, how many calories should I be consuming to reach my fitness goals? Now, this is obviously a question that is dependent on your fitness goals, but basically what we want to do is start by finding our basal metabolic rate, otherwise known as a BMR. And you can go online and type in a BMR calculator or a TDEE calculator, which is a total daily energy expenditure calculator. You enter in your height, age, and weight, and it's going to tell you what the amount of calories are required for your body at your height and your size and your age in order to maintain the current muscle mass or whatever you have going on with your body. And then if we're looking to gain muscle, we're going to want to eat a little bit more than that. Contrary to popular belief, you don't need to eat too much more protein if we're trying to gain weight. You can pretty much leave the protein near the maintenance level because the extra calories and total food you eat are going to help you grow. And you're not in a position where you're going to lose muscle. So making sure the protein is at the maintenance level or above when we're looking to gain muscle. When we're looking to maintain where we're at, looking for foods to all be at the maintenance level of that BMR calculator. And if we're looking to lose body fat, lose body weight, protein needs to be the highest number, even higher than any of the other categories, because we are putting ourselves in a potential position to lose muscle if we do not keep it up, since we're eating less food. So we have to preserve our muscle by eating more protein when looking to lose any type of body weight. Obviously, we're looking to lose body fat, but when looking to lose weight, we need to increase the protein even higher to preserve that muscle, to prevent muscle loss. What are the best sources of protein for muscle building and recovery? In terms of protein, again, it does depend on your diet. If we're looking at a basic diet that doesn't have any limitations, then the best sources of proteins are going to be animal proteins. These are complete proteins. These are not altered, not messed with. You can buy great sources of them. So I'll go over the list of sources. If we're eating red meat, grass-fed and finished red meat is going to be the cleanest and best option for us there. Most, if not all, studies that have talked about any negative side effects of red meat consumption or its relationship to cancer risk are all on red meat that is not grass-fed. Typically, grass-fed red meat has almost zero issues as long as it's lean. We want to pay attention to the saturated fat content in any and all animal foods, but primarily in our red meat. If we're eating a high saturated fat red meat, we're going to want to limit that in our diet. If we're eating an extremely lean red meat, we can eat a lot more of that to maintain a balanced diet. So those are important factors to keep in mind if you eat red meat. When it comes to chicken or poultry, we're looking for pasture raised as well as eggs, pasture raised. Vegetarian fed chickens or organic chickens, cage free chickens, none of that really means anything. Chickens are supposed to eat worms. They're not supposed to be vegetarian fed. So that does not inherently make the egg quality better. It actually makes it worse because you're not feeding them their natural diet. Free range and cage free really mean nothing. If you've seen any documentary on food, you can kind of see that that's all a BS marketing claim. Essentially, they just have access to outside. They're still in a giant cage with thousands of them walking over each other and stepping in their own feces. So again, we're looking for pasture raised is our green light there. When it comes to pork, same thing. It's going to be grass-fed or pasture-raised. When looking at fish, we're looking at wild caught. And if you go to a store and look at salmon or other fishes and you see wild caught and regular, there's a distinct color change. You can tell which one looks cleaner and healthier. So that's another thing. When looking at other protein sources, such as protein shakes, I would recommend whey protein powder. Grass-fed whey protein powder is actually what I use. I also use an unflavored version. Now, I am extra healthy cautious when it comes to protein powder. That's why I use the unflavored, so I'm not taking in any artificial flavorings. You don't have to be that intense. I choose to be since I can manage it, and I don't drink the protein shakes for flavor. I drink them for the purpose of what they are. Other people really enjoy the chocolate and the vanilla, and that's not to say that those are necessarily bad. I just try to limit the artificial sweeteners and flavorings where I can, and it's just not important to me. Next question. How can I lose weight effectively while maintaining muscle mass? Now, we kind of already covered this one a little bit, but again, we're going to be eating less calories. We're going to be burning more calories, but we're going to be preserving muscle by eating protein, good amount of protein. And again, following your BMR calculator, or again, just doing the simple math of relatively 1 gram per pound of body weight. So if I weigh 180 pounds, my upper limit goal should be 180 grams protein. Do I need that much every day? Absolutely not. But that is kind of the number I'm going towards. A good example of a minimum is 1 gram per kilogram of body weight. So for example, if we did that conversion, I can't do that quickly in my head divided by 2.2, but it's going to be somewhere in the 70 to 80 kilogram range. That would be my absolute bare minimum protein. If I eat less than that, I am at risk to lose muscle. But if I want to maintain that muscle while losing weight, I'm going to want to be somewhere in that range towards the higher end. So if I were to drop my calories, I would be probably closer to 140, 150, 160 grams protein per day. If I were looking to gain weight, I could go down towards 100 grams protein per day and have no issue. And if I'm looking to maintain somewhere around the middle of that, again, 110, 120 would be great. This is for me. This is not for you. So using your body weight, using the calculator for you, you'll get that number. If you weigh less than me, if you are a female, or if you are older, or if you are younger, you're going to have a different number. So these are all very relative to your specific condition. But again, as we've gone over multiple times, likely you need more protein than you think you are, than you think you need, or than you are currently consuming, because most people don't get enough good quality protein. So please keep that in mind and look into the protein shakes if that might be easier for you. Next question. Are supplements necessary for my fitness goals? And if so, which ones should I take? No, supplements are not necessary for your fitness goals. Examples of supplements that are safe and heavily researched, though, if you're looking to increase the response to fitness, would be number one is creatine monohydrate. This is a supplement that's been studied in a lab for over 100 years. I believe in the 1920s is when it first was circulated, but considered widely one of the safest supplements to take. What creatine does is it adds fluid to the muscle so that you can increase your output in the gym by about 5 to 10%. what that allows you to do is work out just a little bit harder, have a little bit more energy, and result in a little bit more of a positive outcome at the end of that workout by giving you more to work with. So essentially, it allows you to push through where the 10th rep would have been failure, maybe to 11 or 12, which can help you grow muscle quicker. So again, creatine monohydrate would be the safest and most researched supplement for you to look into if you're interested, but by no means is anything required. And then in terms of other supplements, protein powder is considered a supplement, although depending on what you get, it is as close to a whole food as it can be. For example, my protein powder has a single ingredient. It says whey protein powder, grass-fed whey protein powder. There's no flavoring. There's nothing else in it. It's just isolated whey protein, which is extracted from grass-fed milk. That's it. Other examples of supplements would be anything else that's claiming to be a fat burner or something that's claiming to increase metabolism. All of these things are really unnecessary, and they're really playing at America's laziness. Essentially, if you're willing to eat the correct foods, to exercise, you don't need any of these other supplements to have the same result. Albeit creatine is the only thing where getting that from food in a large quantity is difficult unless we're eating a high red meat diet, which most of us aren't. So this is an example again of where creatine would fit in. But again, no supplements are needed. And if you're interested, you can discuss that with your healthcare professional or anyone else that might be able to help you see what would be right for you in your position. A couple more questions to cover here, guys. What is the role of carbohydrates in my diet and how much should I be eating? Carbohydrates, like we said before, are the number one source of energy for our body. We use them as energy, we burn them off, and if we don't burn them all off, we store them as body fat. So what you should be eating are the cleaner carbohydrates. Now, we've gone over this before, but fruits and vegetables would be our number one in terms of the cleanest, the whole foods, and the easiest for our body to digest. Number two would be more along the lines of sweet potato or other potatoes. Some people might have a stronger reaction to white potatoes, which technically are part of the nightshade family of inflammatory vegetables, but not for everybody. And after we get through the potatoes, we look into the rices. We discussed how brown rice could pose an issue for digestion for some people, not all, but the difference between the white and the brown is typically just that the brown has a more challenging time going through our GI tract and can cause a inflammation response. So typically, to be safer, we recommend looking into the white rice or jasmine rice. Basmati rice are some good examples. Other foods in the carbohydrates that are going to be clean are going to be examples of lentils or other beans that are not high in sugar. And then as we've noticed, not on that list are tortillas and breads and pastas, as these are all highly processed, just not good for us, do not have any place in a balanced diet, but does not mean you need to avoid them completely. Just recommends that you don't have these every single day. If you're used to having a sandwich for lunch, might be a recommendation to look into replacing that carbohydrate with something else. But again, these are all just examples and nothing has to be followed perfectly to give you the best results. How can I improve my metabolism to burn more calories? We can improve our metabolism simply by exercising more. If we're currently not exercising 3 to 5 days a week, we can start there. We can start by increasing our ability to exercise. We can start by increasing our muscle. If we have more muscle, we burn more calories at rest. That is typically why when compared head to head between strength training and cardio training, strength training is going to elicit a larger weight loss response in in these independent studies of different groups, because the strength training group, as they increase muscle, they're going to burn more calories at rest from doing nothing. Whereas the cardio group really only burns calories during the cardio session. So if I'm running on the treadmill for 1 hour and I burn 500 calories, and if I work out for 1 hour and I burn, or doing strength training, and maybe I burn 400 calories, a little bit less, but throughout the rest of the day, there's a very high chance I'm going to be burning more than the difference, which would be 100 calories extra at rest, meaning I'm doing nothing. But just because I have more muscle than potentially the example of me, if I were to only run, I'm going to burn more calories at the end of the day. And in terms of weight loss and body composition change and progress, it doesn't really matter just what you do in the gym. The whole week as a whole is how we measure progress. So it's what you're eating at home. It's the way your body responds to the exercise and the food that you eat. And then it's what you're doing at the gym. So all of these things do play an important role and are important to consider. 3 more questions on this list. And if you guys do have any, please type them up. But next one we got, is there a specific diet or eating plan that you recommend for achieving fitness goals? Now, definitely brought this up a lot. It's going to be more protein than you probably think. Another piece that is commonly overlooked is more water than you probably think. If you're not drinking almost a gallon a day of water, you're likely underhydrating yourself. And if you're exercising on top of that, you likely need even more. So we went over this number before, but for women, it's generally 2+ liters, and for men, it's 3. An easy number to go for is 100 ounces for women and a gallon for men. Now, you don't have to hit this number every day, and you may not even be that thirsty, but going towards that, kind of looking at it more as the ideal that you chase than it is the minimum that you hit, is a great method for maintaining balance in terms of your hydration. What are the key nutrients I should be focusing on to support my active lifestyle? Again, a lot of these questions are commonly coming with the same answer: protein. We need more protein than we think to support muscle recovery, muscle building. If we're active, looking to lose body fat, any of these numbers or any of these questions, the answer always kind of comes back to the same thing: a balanced diet, whole foods, more protein, good hydration, and then lastly, of course, good sleep. One nutrient that I think doesn't get mentioned because it's not a food is sleep. That is nutritious for your body. You need sleep to recover and to utilize the food you give yourself, to use it to the fullest, to give you the results that you're looking for. And lastly here, how can I overcome cravings and maintain a healthy diet while staying consistent with my fitness regimen? My biggest advice for overcoming cravings is, 1, to try intermittent fasting. If you simply decrease the window when you're even available to eat, you simply can't eat when you have those cravings. So that's the first one. Number 2 is drink more water. Typically, more than 50% of the time, if you're feeling hungry or you're craving sugar or salt, your body is likely thirsty. And then since you didn't give it water, it responds by craving something that makes you drink water with it. So if you think about a salty food, it's pretty challenging to drink or to eat an entire bag of tortilla chips and drink nothing at the same time. They're dry, they're salty, they kind of create that imbalance of sodium in the body, which forces you to drink water. So what your body is trying to tell you is, we need water. Okay, you're not listening? Okay, go eat some chips because you'll listen to that, and then that'll make you drink water. Try drinking water first when you have these cravings, and then see if you still crave that food after. At the minimum, you'll drink more water, which is great. And at the other end of the spectrum, at least you'll drink water somehow. And staying consistent with the fitness regimen, again, use a tracker, get an accountability buddy, really define your goal and define your why. A lot of my clients, their biggest reason for wanting to transform their life by focusing on their fitness is because of something in the family, whether they want to be around for their grandkids and they want to be healthy and moving around and picking them up and playing catch with them outside, or whether they want to be supportive for their parents who are going through issues or aging and they want to make sure that they're willing and able to do everything that they can, or that they want to travel with the people that they love. And if you're in chronic pain and constant discomfort, it becomes very difficult to do so. So find your strong reason why you're doing what you're doing. Remember that daily. And if you can, find someone else who relates to you, maybe with a similar reason, and make them accountable to you and you to them. That's going to be it for today, guys. I had a great time doing this series. I hope this information is really helpful, even being watched days, weeks, months, or years later, as it's going to be here on YouTube forever. But thank you guys so much for the support, for the attendance, and for the interest in us doing this. This was really fun. I think we're going to do more of these similar YouTube lives in the future at different frequencies on different topics. But it's been great. Thank you guys again. Have a wonderful weekend. And thanks for getting fit with some hot topics. Take care, guys.